some kind of trash in the faucet itself, which would prevent the washer from sitting down on the face of the seat, which would allow water to come through. So let's take a closer look and let's see what we can do to stop that drip and find out why that water won't cut off. Okay, before we start any work on the faucet, let's make sure that the faucet is off. Down here we have the cutoff, just as we have the main cutoff coming to the house. Now we know that the main cutoff to the house is working. We've covered that. On the left you will have your hot water, and on the right you will have your cold water. Now let's turn off the hot, because we're going to start with the hot side. We're going to work with it. So we're going to turn it off. Better yet, let me give you a closer view. Okay, I'm giving you a closer view intentionally, because what I've done on purpose, I have loosened up the packing nut behind the cutoff valve. As you can probably see, it's dripping here. Okay, just as you have the packing on your main service coming in the house, you have one on just about every valve in your house. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the handle off so you can view it a lot better and see what the packing nut may look like on your valve. Okay, now here's the packing nut. Can you see that? See if you get a closer look here. Packing nut. Okay. Now what we're going to do is, just like we did with the main, we're going to give it a quarter of a turn to stop it from dripping. Okay. Okay. And what I'm using, this particular tool here, is called a pair of pliers. Now we've tightened that. Let's put the handle back on here. The handle, screw, screwdriver, okay. Now that I showed you that, let's turn the water to the hot off so that we can take our valve apart and see what may be causing it to drip, or why the water won't cut off, whether it may be the washer, the seat, or maybe just some foreign object stuck in the valve. Okay, now let's start by taking off the faucet handle so that we can get down to the nuts that's holding the washer and stuff down. Okay, we've got the handle off. Now let's take this stem out here, which turns clockwise. They're pressing on her good and tight. Twist. Ah, this is a hard one. Okay. Okay, got to the point where we can take it off with our hands. Okay. Now, this is what the stem of the faucet looks like. See? Here we have your washer. See the washer there? And the screw here in the middle, which holds the washer in place. Okay, the washer doesn't appear to be too bad. But if you notice, if you look at the screw on top, you see a lot of calcium buildup. Sometimes this calcium buildup can build up so much that it will actually create chunks of calcium that will prevent the washer from sitting flush on the seat. And sometimes this will make your water continue to run or drip. So what you would do in that case, if you have trash in the faucet, reach up underneath your sink. If you got someone to help you, have them do it. But reach up under the sink, turn the faucet under the sink on slowly, cup over the hole of the faucet, and as the water comes out, it'll push out any trash that you might have down in there. Okay? Now that'll flush out all the trash that's down in there. Okay? Okay. Now, if there was any trash in there, it should be out. And we would be ready to put the stem back in. But let's look at it a little closer and look at some more here. Okay, let's see if we can get some of this calcium buildup off of this screw here. Okay. Okay, here I have a set of washers. And most of these washers are a lot of different sizes depending on what you might need. You can pick this up at any hardware store or plumbing supply house. Just get a box of assorted washers. Doesn't cost that much. Okay. Now let's take our screwdriver. Okay. And let's see if we can get that screw off. Okay, sometimes it's not easy. What I like to do, when I do have one that's going to give me a hard time, grab a pair of pliers, such as this, grab the stem, where it would hold nice and sturdy and still for me. Now, take the screwdriver, okay, didn't have it down quite tight enough. Okay. Well, as you can see, sometimes it's pretty hard to try to get that screw off of there. So in that case, when you get to the problem where you do strip the screw out, just take the whole stem with you to a hardware store so that they can match it up, come back home, slip it back in. Okay, but this particular one here, this stem here, this screw is already loose. So I am going to show you how to take the screw off, which I'm sure, okay, we got the screw loose in this one. Now, just take the screw out. Okay, the washer came with it here. Okay, now you see where the washer sits down in there. Okay, now let's see if we can find the proper washer that fits this particular stem. Okay, let's go through our assortments here. Let's look through there, find one that's going to fit right in there. Look at that, that's pretty close. Can you see that? Can't see that, can you? Okay, this one's pretty close. Just need one just a little bit smaller than that one. Okay, that's a little too small. A little too small. Okay, here we got one right here. It's perfect. Okay, see? Put this away. See? That washer fits in there perfectly. This is a flat beveled washer. A flat washer, I'm sorry. They also come in beveled. And a lot of times I do prefer the flat washers myself. Okay, now that we have the washer on there, let's take the screw, insert it back in the middle. Okay, let's tighten it up. This is what holds that washer in place, of course. Okay, now before we put the stem back in, what we want to do is look inside the body of the valve and see what the seat looks like. If the seat is scratched or scorned in any kind of way, even the smallest scratch, it will allow the water to come through and drip. And even if it doesn't come through and drip, it will tear your washer up, and you'll be replacing washers pretty often. So let's see if we can look down into the body of the valve so that I can show you what the seat may look like. Now take in mind, this is one of your basic washers. Faucets. You do have another type of two-handle faucet, which we will cover later in this program. So let's get down, let's see what this the body of this valve look like inside the seat. Okay, as you can see with the stem off, and you look down inside of the valve body, you see the seat. I had to use this flashlight, it was kind of dark and hard to see. Can you see that seat down in there? Let me give you an idea. Point to you here with the screwdriver. Okay. Okay, here's the seat. Right here, that round shape there, made of brass. Okay, now if you see any marks or scars on that seat, that's going to give you problems. Either you won't get the water to stop dripping, or you will be continuously replacing it with washers. Now if this seat is bad, I'm not going to recommend that you try and change this seat. I would recommend that you change the whole entire faucet itself. For one reason, there are so many different seats made for this particular faucet that you'll have time running around town trying to find the right seat to fit right in there. And then putting the seat in sometimes can be kind of complicated, but you would come out cheaper in the long run just replacing the faucet, which we will also cover throughout this video, replacing the faucet. Okay, now that we've taken the valve apart to see what the problem was, and this faucet was a pretty good faucet anyway, what we're going to do is put it back together just the way we took it apart. First the stem here, put the stem back in, screw it in, as soon as we can get a good start on it. Okay, now we've got it. Let's turn it down by hand, tight as we can get it with our hand. Let's grab a crescent wrench, adjustable wrench. Let's get it set for the sides. Okay. Just tighten it down. Also, by the way, when you turn your faucet on and you have water that comes from up under your handle, if you would just pull that handle off, and this particular part that we're putting back together here, this stem body, tighten that up, and that will usually stop that leak from up under that handle. Okay, just as we're putting it back together. Okay, now that we've got that on, let's get the handle. Put the handle back on. Screw in there. Tighten the handle back down. Okay, what we want to do is adjust the handle to where it's comfortable for you. And this is definitely not a good spot here. Okay, adjust that handle back around where it sits. Let's get the screw in there. Once again, tighten it back down. Now, okay. Now let's reach up under the sink. Okay. Let me take you back a little further so you can see a little more. Okay. Let's go up under our sink. Turn the valves back on. Okay. Now, see what we got. it off. No leak. The water's not running. So let's say the faucet can't be repaired. What do we do next? That's right, we replace the faucet. And I'm going to show you an easy way on how to replace the faucet. Now, replacing the lab faucet is pretty simple. The way that I like to do it, I like to actually remove the entire face bowl from the wall. And in some cases that's pretty easy. Now if you have caulking back in here, what you want to do is take your utility knife, cut the caulking loose so that the face bowl will be loose enough to pull away. And if you have a vanity, most vanities are fairly easily, and they do come up pretty easy too. So in most cases, you're not going to run into a problem where you can't remove the face bowl from the wall. So the first thing we want to do is, if we have the water on, we want to make sure that the water is off. First, let's get pieces in the back off of here. Okay, now we've cleaned the putty and the trash that were around the little holes here. Now there's one more piece that we need to take apart. This here, the pop-up plug. Pop-up plug. What meaning pop-up is the exactly what it says. Pop-up plug. This is the plug in the middle that stops the water from coming through in your sink here. Okay, see it? This is the pop-up. Okay, what we're going to do is pull the old pop-up out of there and put a new one in. So what we're going to do, let's start with our pliers here. We're going to take it apart right here. Okay, how's that? Okay, we're going to put our pliers on the nut. Okay, now this is not easy to turn sometimes. So let's grab it here. Okay, here we go. Okay, we got it to turn. So what we're going to do is loosen this nut up. Loose as we can get it. Loose, loose, loose. All the way down to the bottom. You see it? It's coming loose here. Loose. Okay. Now from there, the way this particular one is, what we want to do is try to take this washer off of here, which can be kind of hard. So let's get a little screwdriver here, pry it in between the middle of this. Let's see if we can pry it away from the, break that seal, so we can pull this pop-up out. See, it's starting to come loose. This is an old sink, and this is just like the faucet itself. It's been sitting on here a while. Okay. Now we've got this pretty loose. And we got the washer just about back as far as we'd like to have it. Okay, now it's loose. So we can push it forward. And the reason we want to do that is so that inside here, get a good look at it. Inside the pop-up here, I still have it here on the back side here. Now, this piece is screwed on there, so get a good grip on there. That's why we want to push that washer back so we can get a real good grip on it. Okay, this one's not going to be easy. Once again, that's okay. They're all not going to be easy. Okay. Okay. This one's frozen on there. Now once again, like I told you, if it's too hard to get off, and if you feel that you can't do it, call a professional in. They have the special tools. But in this case, I'm going to show you what I'm going to use to get that off of there. I'm going to cut it off with hacksaw. Now, okay, we have a hacksaw here. What I'm going to do is just start cutting it right here. Can you see it? Okay. I'm trying to cut it to where you can see it, and I can cut it. Okay. Let's try this. Let's see if we can try another angle where you can see it, and I can get to it. This is pretty. You know how to operate a hacksaw if you're mechanically inclined. Okay, what I've done is got halfway through. Probably a little more. Let's go a little more. Okay, now I should be able to just bend this piece of pipe back. Can you see it? Yeah, I just come to it right there. Okay. In some cases, you may not have to worry about this. But when you do, call the right person for the right job. If you feel that you can't handle it. Okay. Now what I've done, we're going to get ready to put this back together. And what I've done is laid my parts out. The new parts that are going to go in there. Okay. Let's back the camera up so that you can see. Okay. Okay, right here we have the new faucet that we're going to put on. Okay. We have a new pop-up assembly. We have our gasket for our faucet. And the rest of the accessories that we're going to need. So let's start with putting the faucet on first. There are cases that when you're installing a faucet that you want to put putty around the rims. But this particular faucet here came with a water seal type gasket. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the gasket. Okay, see how it fits on there real nice and tight? Okay. Now these are the mounting screws that'll mount the washer, the faucet, I'm sorry, to the sink. Okay. Here we have the front side of the sink, where the faucet will go right through this hole. Right there. Just like that. Now that we have that mounted, we'll turn it around where you can see it. We'll take the mounting screws and place them here on the and then we'll tighten it down. And this will hold the faucet down tight on the baseball. Okay, that's one. Let's put the other one here. Same process. Okay, good. Nice and tight. See? Faucet's not going anywhere. Now, let's go with the pop-up assembly. Now, all pop-up assemblies are not exactly made the same. But with every new package that you get with your faucet and pop-up assembly in it, they come with directions, and along with their directions and this video, you shouldn't have too much of a problem putting them together. Okay, these came in 2 parts. This wire is going to go on the top side, down inward to the side of the sink, and this is going to be the bottom side. In this particular case here, we are going to use putty. Okay, here's some putty. What I'm going to do is scoop a little bit out. Okay. Got a little more. Now we're going to take the putty, smush it together real nice and compact. Okay. What we want to do is put it on there so to make a nice tight seal on our pop-up assembly. Okay. Here, this part here, which is going to go on the top, where the plug itself goes into here, and plugs it up, and the water prevent the water from coming through. Okay, let's put this down where you can see it. Here is the pop-up assembly. I mean, the top piece. So what we're going to do it is just like you're playing with the Play-Doh, like when you were a kid. Wrap it right around here. There you go. Break a piece off, the excess that you don't need. Kind of squish it down with your hands real pretty good here. Okay. Okay. This is how these two are going to go together. It's just that one is going to be on top and the other is going to be on the bottom. Okay. One other thing you want to do is put pipe dope on there. Now let's get some pipe dope and pipe dope it up. This is an extra precaution and sealant. Okay, here we have some pipe dope sealant. This particular type is the Teflon pipe dope sealant. This is the kind of type I like the best, personally. Okay, so this pipe dope. We're going to put it on the threads of this piece here. Okay. Okay, now we've got that on there. We're also going to put on the threads here. And by the way, if you're going to put a new pop-up assembly on your face bowl, I recommend using the metal type of pop-ups. The plastic ones, you tend to have problems with them. Okay, now we've got these pieces all doped up and piped up and puttied and ready to go. Let's start putting it together here. Okay, first, let's back up a little. Okay, now let me show you one side. Okay, this is the inside part of the sink. This is where this piece is going to go. Okay, right in there. Okay, but we're going to have to work both of them together. So what we're going to have to do is, you've seen how this goes in. Okay, I'm putting that in. See it on the other side here. Now, in order for the two of them to work together, this half is going to have to go in here. Okay, you can't see this part that I'm screwing them together. And remember, with every package you're going to get some directions on how to put it together. And like I said, with this video and that package. Okay, now we've got that together. Okay, let's turn it back around. Okay, it's ready to go back together. Okay, now what we're going to do is take this mounting nut, which mounts the pop-up to the sink. Take the let's take the washer and slide it up as far as we can go with it right here first, okay? Then tighten this mounting nut up on there, okay. Get there nice and snug and tight. Just about like we took the other one apart. We're putting this one together. Okay. Let's adjust our wrench. See? Let's tighten that nut. Tight enough. Now this part here, we want to make sure that this is facing in the right direction. Okay, see, this is facing in the right direction. Aiming straight for this hole right here, which is where the push rod, pull rod is going to come out to hook to this here, which is the mechanism that operates the pop-up plug. Okay, now let's give this a little more turn, tighten it. Now let's turn it around so you can see the other side, how the putty I started squeezing and oozing out through here, providing us with a tight seal. Okay, what I like to do is take the screwdriver and get that excess putty off of there. Okay, back around the other side. Now, here we have another part that operates the pop-up. Okay, this nut comes off of here. Slide this one on there, like so. I did it. Okay. Now, here's the plug itself. Now these two work together at the same time. This is how that plug operates. Once this is inside, it pulls this up and down, you know, just like that. So what we want to do is take this, put it on the other side, again, okay, stick it in here on the other side here, like so, okay. See how that hole is facing back that way? Okay, back to the other side and show you where it's coming out at. Okay, now you can see it, okay? See it? Okay. Now this part goes in here, which would allow us to control that pop-up. See how it goes up and down? Okay, now let's get the nut up on there. Crank down on it. On this particular nut, you don't want to crank down too tight, because if you do, you have a problem controlling the mechanism. It'll take too much of an effort to get it up and down and possibly bend the arm. Okay. That's fairly tight enough. You can still operate it, and it's nice and snug. Okay, now let's push the push rod, pull rod through from the other side. Okay, there we go. Push rod goes in here, like that, right? Now we want to catch it at the other side. See? There we go. Okay. Now we have another mechanism that's hooked to the push rod and the arm of the pop-up. This piece here. What I want to do, run this piece through here, okay. And this nut, this screw right here, is going to allow us to tighten down on it to where it'll grip this rod, so that won't go anywhere. And we have another piece, pin here, which will hold the rod in place, which will hold the rod and the arm together, like so. Okay, what we'll do is put this piece on first, just through one hole. Okay, now put this piece on, catching any hole that we want, depending on how we want to adjust it. Okay. Now let's get that second one through the hole through there. Okay, yeah. See? That holds it together. Holds it in place. That little simple piece. Okay. Now, what I like to do is pull it down as far as I can. Let me show you here. Let's see. First of all, control this from out back here. See the pop up? Pull it down as far as I can. Then I go to the back and adjust the arm and the rod and everything that needs to be adjusted. Okay, now we have this basically where we want it. We want to tighten this nut here, right here. So let's tighten that where it'll hold that rod in place to where we want it, because we've got it set just where we want it. Okay, now we have the push and pull rod hook. Nice and snug and tight, see? Okay, now you can see inside how it controls it, up and down, nice and tight. Just the way you want it. Okay, now we have the tail piece, the extended tail piece. The extended tail piece that hooks to this end here. Here's the extended tail piece. Now I'm going to screw that in there. But first, before we do that, we want to put, that's right, some more pipe dope on here. We want as much of a seal as we can get. We don't want any extra water that we don't need. That's not in the sink itself. Okay, there we have it, okay? Place it goes, and it goes clockwise. And this is hand tight is good enough. That's nice and tight right there. Okay, what we'll do is get a rag and wipe the access pipe dope that's on there. Okay. Now, one other thing we want to do before we go, just about got it together. Now, we want to put the supply lines back on. Here, supply lines. Now let me tell you, the supply lines, I do like to use them because when you do need to make an adjustment, if you had to get new ones, they're easy to cut off. Just any kind of utility knife, any kind of house knife, you can cut it at the length that you want it. Okay, but we're going to use the ones we had on there over because they're still good. Okay, here we go again. That one's on there. Okay, one more, bottom here. That one's on there. I just got them snug and tight, hand tight, but that's not going to be good enough. What we're going to do, crescent again, and give it some more. Okay, nice and snug. Okay, that's nice and tight there. This one. Nice and tight. Now, let's put our baseball back on the wall. Let me back up here a little. You see the mounting brackets. And if you have a vanity, like I said, vanity top, usually comes off pretty easy also. So now, slip it on here. Caught it. Back. Okay. Okay, we have it on. Now let's get a view at the bottom, and we're going to hook it back together here. Close up. Okay. Let's hook this supply line back up. Let's slide that nut up. You see here is the ferrule. This particular part here, the little white piece there is a ferrule. If you were using a metal pipe, it'd be a metal piece of ferrule that would be made of brass. Okay, now we'll slip this back into the valve itself. That goes right in there. And that drops right down the top. Just start tightening that nut right back up. Same thing with the other side. You can't see it, but okay. Now we're going to put the waste system back together, the P-trap right here. Okay. Now right here we can see that we ran into a problem already, which is good that we ran into a problem in this video. Now that you'll know what to do. What we have here is the waste. P-trap itself is too far from the extended tailpiece. Okay, see right here you have that big gap right there? But there isn't a solution for that. What we need to do is get a extended tailpiece, slip nut, extended tailpiece. This particular tailpiece here is 1.5 inches. More than most likely at your home you'll need 1.25 inches. So if you need an extended tailpiece to make this longer to fit, go to the supply house or the hardware store and ask for 1.25 inches extended tailpiece with the slip knot, connection. Okay? Now, let's put the P-trap on. Okay, we've got that on. Okay, this is loose. This is just a module that was built. It's not the actual plumbing system itself. Okay, now what we want to do, slide the slip knot tailpiece up on here and get your finger mark about right there is where you want it. Now again, let's get the hacksaw again. Okay, and right there is where we want to cut it. Okay, got it marked. It's important that after you cut the tailpiece to fit, get the burrs out of the way. Get your knife or something, just get those regular edges off of there so that you won't have any soil or anything that's going through your pipe system catch on to that and start you in the process of clogging up your sink. Okay, now that we've done that, let's take our slip nut. Let's take the nut off here. And like I said, this particular one is 1.5 inches, so we'll need a 1.25 inch washer, which goes in there. So now we'll slip the nut up on here, and our 1.25 inch washer right here. Slip right up in there. Now let's take our extended tailpiece, slide that to the side, slide it up in here. We have another nut, and one more washer, which is 1.5 inch washer. That's because the system that I'm using is 1.5 inches. But in most cases, in your case, okay, now that we've got the extended tailpiece on there, let's slide it back down into place with the P-trap. Yeah, Let's slide the first nut down, tighten it up. Let's tighten the nut in the back up. Like I said, this is loose because this is just a module. It hasn't been put together, it's just for display purpose. And remember, when working on a wall hung sink, a sink that's hanging from the wall, be very careful. It's probably a good idea if you can get someone to help you. Because if that sink is not secured tightly, you could have problems. Okay. Now we've got it back together. We've used the extended tailpiece to fill that gap. We have it all hooked back up. Let's turn the water on. Good. Cold up. Sorry, the hot. Cold. Check the pop up. Okay, it works great. Well, let's go. Now let's go to our next project. Now, just like the other faucet, this faucet works on the same principles, but yet it has a little difference to it as far as not being able to cut the water off or having a leak or why water won't come on at all. This works on the same principle, and I'm going to show you just how this works. Okay, this doesn't necessarily work as the other one as far as the washers are concerned. Let's get a little closer look and let's take it apart and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, let's start with this hot side here. Let's take that one off. Once again, just like the other one, first thing we want to do is make sure that the water is off up underneath. Okay, I'm turning that off right now. Okay, good. We have it off. Okay. Now, first of all, let's take the handle apart. Take it off there, rather. Okay. Already you can see that the stem on this one is kind of different. Now, this particular one has a packing nut right here. Okay. Okay, we have it on. Now let's get a view at the bottom where we're going to hook it back together here. Close up. Okay. Let's hook this supply line back up. Let's slide that nut up. You see here is the ferrule. This particular part here, the little white piece there is a ferrule. If you were using a metal pipe, it'd be a metal piece of ferrule that would be made of brass. Okay, now we'll slip this back into the valve itself. That goes right in there. And that drops right down the top. Just start tightening that nut right back up. Same thing with the other side. You can't see it, but okay. Now we're going to put the waste system back together, the P-trap right here. Okay. Now right here we can see that we ran into a problem already, which is good that we ran into a problem in this video. Now that you'll know what to do. What we have here is the waste. P-trap itself is too far from the extended tailpiece. Okay, see right here you have that big gap right there? But there isn't a solution for that. What we need to do is get a extended tailpiece, slip nut, extended tailpiece. This particular tailpiece here is 1.5 inches. More than most likely at your home you'll need 1.25 inches. So if you need an extended tailpiece to make this longer to fit, go to the supply house or the hardware store and ask for 1.25 inches extended tailpiece with the slip knot connection. Okay? Now let's put the P-trap on. Okay, we've got that on. Okay, this is loose. This is just a module that was built. It's not actual plumbing system itself. Okay, now we want to do, slide the slip knot tailpiece up on here. And get your finger mark about right there is where you want it. Now again, let's get the hacksaw again. Okay. And right there is where we want to cut it. Okay. Got it marked. It's important that after you cut the tailpiece to fit, get the burrs out of the way. Get your knife or something, just get those regular edges off of there so that you won't have any soil or anything that's going through your pipe system catch on to that and start you in the process of clogging up your sink. Okay, now that we've done that, let's take our slip nut. Let's take the nut off here. And like I said, this particular one is 1.5 inches, so we'll need a 1.25 inches washer, which goes in there. So now we'll slip the nut up in here, and our 1.25 inch washer right here. Slip right up in there. Now let's take our extended tailpiece, slide that to the side, slide it up in here. We have another nut, and one more washer, which is 1.5 inch washer. That's because the system that I'm using is 1.5 inches. But in most cases, in your case, okay, now that we've got the extended tailpiece on there, let's slide it back down into place with the P-trap. Okay, slide the first nut down, tighten it up. Let's tighten the nut in the back up. Like I said, this is loose because this is just a module. It hasn't been put together, it's just for display purpose. And remember, when working on a wall hung sink, a sink that's hanging from the wall, be very careful. It's probably a good idea if you can get someone to help you, because if that sink is not secured tightly, you could have problems. Okay, now we've got it back together. We've used the extended tailpiece to fill that gap. We have it all hooked back up. Let's turn the water on. Good. Cold up. Sorry, the hot. Cold. Check the pop up. Okay, it works great. Well, let's go. Now let's go to our next project. Now, just like the other faucet, this faucet works on the same principles, but yet it has a little difference to it as far as not being able to cut the water off or having a leak or why water won't come on at all. This works on the same principle, and I'm going to show you just how this works. Okay, this doesn't necessarily work as the other one as far as the washers are concerned. Let's get a little closer look and let's take it apart and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, let's start with this hot side here. Let's take that one off. Once again, just like the other one, first thing we want to do is make sure that the water is off up underneath. Okay, I'm turning that off right now. Okay, good. We have it off. Now, first of all, let's take the handle apart. Take it off there, rather. Okay. Already you can see that the stem on this one is kind of different. Now, this particular one has a packing nut right here.